Hello everybody, welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces Talks Music. So today we are talking about the Smiths, The Queen is Dead. The Smiths are a very interesting band to try to talk about in the format that we normally use on this channel. They only had 4 albums that they released, so that's what I was trying to choose from. I landed on The Queen is Dead because it's probably the one that's the most nostalgic for me. Of course, living in America, it was huge here. The Smiths were already big, of course, because How Soon Is Now had already been recorded and released. But The Queen is Dead just exploded. It was so big in America. Nowadays, I probably prefer Meat is Murder of the 4. I love the first album. I've listened to it a ton. But that second album, Meat is Murder, I really do enjoy. And the 4th album, of course, is also incredibly good. I personally kind of have a problem with it because that song, Girlfriend in a Coma, got so much radio play. And it's a weird fine line when you talk about music by the Smiths or maybe any kind of post-punk band like the Joy Division, or because they can get really dark. And most of the time, if you're in the right mood, it's really, really enjoyable and good. But there are times that it can push a little bit too far, or it can seem a little bit cheek and tongue and just get silly. And I feel like Girlfriend in a Coma kind of crossed that line. It is not my favorite tune. So that kind of jaded that album for me, to be honest. So I landed on The Queen is Dead to do with this. But the really big problem with this is the Smiths is mostly a singles band. Like, they literally have like 28 singles. And some of those singles are actually on the albums, of course, but not the B-sides, right? And of course, because it's the 80s, not only did they have 7-inch singles with B-sides, but then you also get 12-inch singles that had different versions of songs, different B-sides, live performances. I mean, there is so much other stuff that if you just buy the 4 Smiths albums, honestly, you're missing the best. And I guess it depends on what versions of the Smiths albums you get. In 2017, there was a re-release, for instance, of The Queen is Dead that's 4 discs long. So this other stuff is accessible, but it's just really strange to have a band that was so focused on singles that it's hard to get everything that they've released, There is a box set that has all of their singles in it, which is great. But even that gets a little bit strange because the original box set is the 7 inches. But then if you go for the re-release of it, it's mostly the 12-inch single versions of the stuff. So it's the whole thing's just kind of bizarre. But for this specific video, I'm going to talk about mostly The Queen is Dead because it's just an incredible album. I really do love it. So it was originally released on June 16th of 1986. It was massively successful. I know in England it was on the charts forever. In America it was on our charts as well, and it went up to gold. And if you were fortunate enough to live in a place that had some kind of new wave channel like I was, it got played to death. There are songs on this that I've heard probably 1,000,000 times, and I still love them. That's the really great thing about it. They really are just incredible, incredible tunes. Like I said, it's the 3rd album by them. So you've got the self-titled, Meat is Murder, then The Queen is Dead, and then Strange Ways, Here We Come. Those 4 albums. They did release a live album called Rank, which you can get, which is wonderful. I do highly recommend it. And then the compilation that I had in America was called Louder Than Bombs. And that's got a lot of the singles on it. If you buy the CD, of course, get the CD because it's got more. I don't even know if at the time it was ever released on vinyl. I know it's been released on vinyl now, but I can't imagine what they cut. But Louder Than Bombs is not all-encompassing. It's really just got the highlights from those singles. And it's really great. They also have an early compilation of sessions that they did, Peel sessions and other things like that, called Hatful of Hollow, which is really good. I do recommend that as well, especially if you love that first album. That first album is so good. Of course, if you're a Smiths fan, you're going to have all 4. You're going to have some kind of compilation of the singles. Hopefully just the box set of the singles. and Hatful of Hollow and Rank. I think that would pretty much cover you. And if you can get those 2017 remasters, absolutely do. So the Smiths were formed in 1982, and they are Morrissey on vocals, Johnny Marr on guitar, Andy Rourke on bass, and Mike Joyce on drums. And they kept that lineup pretty much the whole time. Of course, there was a time when they had an additional member playing guitar, but it really was those four the whole time. They came out of Manchester, which I really like, mostly just because of the Joy Division. That's the only real association I have with that. But I just love that they came from the same place. I think that's really cool. And they actually did try to get onto Factory Records. They played some music for Factory Records, but they turned them down, which obviously Factory Records kicks themselves for over and over again because they're such a massively successful band. Their first three albums were released on Rough Trade. Their relationship with Rough Trade was pretty rocky, so their final album was released on EMI. And of course, they're a massively successful, massively influential band from the 80s. It's weird growing up in a specific decade because you hear all the normal pop crap that gets released. Like, it's really weird for me to go back to 60s music because if I pick and choose, if I look for like garage rock and that kind of stuff, I'm like, the 60s are the most incredible time for music. But, you know, if you could just listen to an average day of radio play in the 60s, you'd hear all the normal crap that was being played in the 60s. And I believe the same thing is true for the 70s, of course. If you go back to the 70s and you kind of pick and choose and you grab Pink Floyd and you can really create this image of 70s music that's incredible. But if you just listen to an average radio station on an average day in the 70s, it's horrible. You know what I mean? And I feel like the 80s is that way too, of course, but every decade has its specific bands that really shined and were really important for music moving forward. And I feel like the Smiths are one of those bands. They're incredibly, incredibly good and incredibly important. All right, so let's talk about the album just a little bit. I'm not going to go over every track, but there are some real highlights on this album that I want to point out. So it opens with the title track, The Queen is Dead. I really love this song. It's so strange and aggressive, and I enjoy that, of course. Overall, for me, the most important aspects of this album are basically the sad songs. It's kind of a silly way to put it, but I really think it's true. There are songs on this album that are so sad and so beautiful, and I think that's the real power of the album. But there are a couple other types of tunes, like The Queen is Dead, that stick out for other reasons. It's just this really aggressive, strange, interesting tune, and I really love it for that. Then track 3 and 4 on side 1 are I Know It's Over and Never Had No One Ever, and these two songs are just so sad. I don't know how else to put it, They're just beautiful songs. I really, really love them. And they're not the most popular songs on the album. But I believe that that's really the staying power of the album, because the other tunes on side 1 are Frankly Mr. Shankly and Cemetery Gates, and both of those got radio play, for me anyway, where I was in America. And they're good tunes. There's nothing wrong with them, Frankly Mr. Shankly, I think, is some kind of a sarcastic bite at Rough Trade Records. And Cemetery Gates is just about a meeting that Morrissey had with another person that he enjoyed, so he wrote a song about it. They're not bad. They're not bad at all. Cemetery Gates always kind of confused me. I don't know if they just spell it differently in England. It is about a cemetery, but I don't know. But they're fine. They're just fine. But The Queen is Dead, I Know It's Over, and Never Had No One Ever are just fantastic. I really love those tunes. And it's kind of the same situation with the second side. Track 6 is Big Mouth Strikes Again. Fantastic. I love this tune. It's so aggressive and so bizarre. And I picked up this 12-inch single and just played it to death. It's such a great tune. And then, of course, you have There Is a Light and It Never Goes Out, which is probably, it's an excellent tune. I can't say it's the best tune they ever recorded. It's absolutely the best tune they ever put on an album. I believe that. But of course, you've got Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want. And you've also got How Soon Is Now. And those two songs are just so huge and so important. But I feel like this is right up there with them. It's an incredible, incredible song. And they actually debated about whether they should do Big Mouth Strikes Again as the single, or if they should do There Is a Light and It Never Goes Out. And they chose Big Mouth Strikes Again, which in hindsight, I don't think was the right choice. I love both of the songs, but I do believe There Is a Light probably would have done better, even though the album was massively successful either way. So it probably doesn't really matter, to be honest. But those two songs are just incredible. And they do have The Boy with a Thorn in His Side, Vicar in a Tutu, and Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others. And they're fine, right? They're good songs. There's nothing wrong with them. Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others is weird to me because I feel like it had more potential than it actually reached. I think the lyrics are probably a big part of the problem. I feel like if the lyrics were deeper than what they are, the song itself might have grown more. I feel like it could have been more than it actually was, but they're all fine, right? The album's great. It really is great. If you don't know the Smiths, of course you need to look up How Soon Is Now, Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want, and you can go to The Queen Is Dead, that's fine, or Meat Is Murder. To me, the biggest problem with Meat Is Murder, even though I think I'm beginning to like it more now, the biggest problem with it is it's so on the nose with its politics. It's not subtle in any way. And I feel like a bit of mystery and subtlety can go a really long way. You know, I mean, the song Meat is Murder is just straight up singing about how eating meat is killing things, you know, which I think everybody knows, right? And it's not necessarily something that I totally disagree with or anything. It's just so on the nose and so blatant. Like Kate Bush just released a brand new tune, and it's got this beautiful video that goes with it about this little tiny mammal that crawls out of this soldier's pocket in this dead zone where all this bombing has been occurring. If you haven't looked it up, you really should look it up. Kate Bush is the best, hands down. We already made a Kate Bush video on another channel, so I haven't been... It's hard to make kind of the same video twice. I don't just want to bring that video over because we've grown a lot as channel makers, of course. So we will, of course, eventually cover a Kate Bush album at some time, but this new video is incredible, and it's very, very political, but it's heightened with this weird story of this weird little mammal trying not to get killed in this dead zone and chasing this strange light that came from heaven. And I feel like that's a lot more powerful than just calling out the fact that meat is murder, you know? But check out those tunes. If you love those tunes, then grab the albums, grab a compilation of some sort so you get the singles. The singles are a must. They're probably their best work. So get Louder Than Bombs or something, the Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2, you know, some kind of a compilation so that you can get a bunch of those singles and grab the albums because they really are incredibly good. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button and make sure to subscribe because we have a lot more like this. And have a great day.